Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's Last Post ceremony. My name is Craig Burrell, and joining us today from the Royal Australian Navy is Chief Petty Officer David Osborne. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that support them. We acknowledge the members of RSL Services Clubs Association, RSL Victoria, and RSL Queensland, who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection by visitors to the memorial and students on behalf of the following schools: from Queensland, Claremont State School, Copperbella State School, and Middle Park State School, and from Western Australia, Swan Christian College. Please stand and join in singing the National Anthem. Students, please be seated. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn their loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the hearts of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight, we will read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 102,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and operations for more than a century. But first, we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths or floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection.
Today, we pay tribute to Flight Lieutenant Thomas Ernest Victor Morgan. Thomas Morgan was born in Sydney on the 21st of November 1915, the son of Edward and Lily Morgan of the beachside suburb of Coogee. Known as Tommy to his friends and family, after his education, he went to work as a salesman. On the 20th of July 1941, Thomas Morgan enlisted in the Royal Australian Air Force. He began training as an air gunner and after initial training in Australia, embarked for overseas service. As part of the Empire Air Training Scheme, he was one of almost 27,500 Royal Australian Air Force pilots, navigators, wireless operators, gunners and engineers who throughout the course of the war joined Royal Air Force squadrons or Australian squadrons based in Britain. Arriving in Britain, Morgan undertook further specialist training before being posted to number 460 Squadron, Royal Australian Air Force. Number 460 Squadron would become the most highly decorated Australian squadron in Bomber Command and the squadron that suffered the highest casualties. Flying twin-engine Vickers Wellington medium bombers and then the four-engined Avro Lancaster heavy bombers, the squadron lost over 1,000 men, Australian, British, Canadians, New Zealanders and South Africans. Almost 600 Australians from the 460 Squadron are listed here on the Roll of Honour. During his service with the squadron, Morgan rose to the position of gunnery leader with the rank of Flight Lieutenant. On the night of the 5th to the 6th of March, 21 Lancasters from 460 Squadron were taking part in a large raid targeting industrial and rail centre of Chemnitz, Germany. During the operation, the Lancaster, in which Morgan was the air gunner, crashed near the small village of Fife, near Sprakenburg in central Germany. The local mayor reported that the aircraft had circled low with its engines on fire before crashing. Morgan and all 7 of his crewmates were killed. Fellow Australians, Squadron Leader John Holmes, Flight Sergeant Trevor Clark, Flying Officer Donald Hodgspeth, Flying Officer Ivan Burdenet and Warrant Officer Elwyn Main, as well as a British crewmate, Sergeant John Young and Sergeant Ralph Hayward from Newfoundland. Thomas Morgan was 29 years old. The bodies of all the crew were recovered and buried in Fife churchyard. They were later reinterred in the British Commonwealth War Cemetery in Hanover, Germany, where the remains lie side by side today. Upon Morgan's headstone, the epitaph chosen by his family appears. He died that we might live, always remembered. A photograph of his headstone is displayed today beside the pool of reflection. The loss of Thomas Morgan was deeply felt throughout the 460 Squadron. For his skill and fortitude in operations against the enemy, he was posthumously awarded the Distinguished Flying Medal. His name is listed here on the Roll of Honour to my left, among almost 40,000 Australians who died while serving in the Second World War. But this is one of many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Flight Lieutenant Thomas Ernest Victor Morgan, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, in the hope of a better world.
Please stand for the ode and the sounding of the last post.
They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them. lest we forget.
lest we forget. We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Pozieres or in the low scrub at Gallipoli with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, that concludes the last post ceremony. Thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial, and we wish you all a very good evening.